First step is to remove the intake hose. We've already pulled this off since we have a KWT filter. Once you have that hose off the cover here, you can pull these T40s. Got one down there and one up there. And then repeat on the other side for the CVT intake as well. First step you're going to want is to pull all these push pins and T40 head M6 bolts, and then you're going to remove this fender as well. There's a couple push pins underneath the fender well, and then plastic snap-in attachment points on this fender. So once you get all those out, as well as another T40 up here in the front, this will just kind of pop off with some love. And repeat on the other side as well. So once you have this outer fender off, as you can see, we've already cut it out our plastics, but on the OEM inner fender line, there's a section here that's going to get filled, and you can just follow the body line and cut it with a utility knife. A heat gun will really help soften this up, and just follow that contour. That way we can get access to the down tube on the back of the roll cage. So you're going to want to get the left arm, is what we started. Left arm started. It's going to have a tube clamp that goes onto the C-pillar down here, as well as the frame rail down here. Now, we do sell these black and raw. Sometimes you can run into some problems with powder coat being too thick. So this is actually ended up being 4-stage powder coat. So it's a little bit harder to get started. And once you do get it seated, what you can do is get the Allen, quarter 20 Allens, you know, loosely on there. So we still have a little bit of adjustment. But if you have extra thick powder coat, you might want to grab some extra long, like a 1-inch quarter 20, to get, you know, help get a little extra leverage and get those tube clamps seated. So you will receive your center section with the races already pressed in, and this is going to be the bottom. You can tell because there's no logo on this face. On the top section we have our Fastlab Flying F. So what we're going to do now is grease our first bearing, drop it in, and then put our seal in, and then it'll go onto the car on the spindle. These grease packs will come with your kit. You don't need a whole lot, just enough to get in the rollers. Okay. Also, wear gloves. It's very messy. And that'll probably do it. So our next step is we're going to be putting in the dust seal on the bottom. You can prop up the center section to keep it as square as possible. And you're going to want to apply even pressure. You can kind of just start it with your hands there, with like a block of wood or something, so you don't gouge it, and then just make sure it's square, or square as can be, and then just kind of keep an eye on it. And maybe one more for good measure. Nice tight seal. And then this will go directly on the car, facing down. Now this arm is still pretty loose. We can move it if we want. So you're gonna put seal side down and just slowly work your way down. And kind of just let it rest there. Then you're gonna get your other bearing, slide it right over the top, and just try to push it down as far as you can. Next, you'll get your castle nut and get that started. And get your socket, and you can drive it down until you get access to the cotter pin opening. Once you get it started by hand, you can use a 36mm socket or a crescent wrench if you don't have one that big. And you don't need to go crazy on these. just till it's nice and snug. And then again, you're going to want to make sure you have access to that cotter pin slot. So almost there. That's pretty good. And then push your cotter pin, and you're going to want to bend these over, probably with a set of duckbill pliers or something. Next is the upper dust cap. So you're going to want to make sure you apply even pressure all the way around to make sure it gets seated fully and evenly. If this ends up getting a little deformed, that's okay. It's just a small tin piece. So the next step is aligning, and this is probably the most crucial part. And you could start off by just looking down the hub face and your center of vehicle, and you could tell that this needs to come over. And if you look over here as well, obviously these are substantially out of alignment. So because they're on a kind of a skewed axis, kind of like this, you're gonna have to adjust the left and the right individually until you get your center of your hub aligned with the center of your car. And how we're gonna do that is just take a dead blow, and you can hit kind of like right around here or a little bit lower down, and repeat on the opposite side as well until you get these two faces in plane with each other. So you'll see two bolt patterns on our hub face here. The outside is going to be for the Pro XP. This is going to be a 4 on 156 bolt pattern. And the inside, there's only 3. This is for your Turbo R, your Pro R. That is 5 by 114.3 or 5 by 4.5. So we put a little NACs on our wheel studs, and we have this stud puller. And we'll continue to do the other 2. So this is your final bits of hardware. So first you're going to take your U-bolt and take these jam nuts, and you can just drive them all the way down. And then your latch assembly, you're going to push this through. Take your little thumb bit here. These nuts have their little nylocks. Let's get everything started. We're going to take these 2 pieces, and these are going to go on the frame side of the spare tire carrier. M6 bolts. I'll feed those through the 2 plates. Start everything nice and loose. You can go ahead and tighten these down. Next is your centerpiece. Go ahead and grab your clasp and another M6 bolt. You can kind of snug those up too. They do have a little bit of play, so you might have to go back and relax them and retighten a little bit, but for a next adjustment, that's pretty good. All right, so now we're going to adjust the U-bolt. So you're going to want to get it closed and start tightening this down with a 8mm wrench until you get a good amount of tension on the assembly here. And just go back and forth between the 2. And tight, we're going to get that a little tighter up against the thumb latch here. That's all snug. And then before we tighten these, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pop this out and just add a little extra preload, maybe 1, 2, 3 turns on each. And then push it back together and bottom out our nuts here and here. You might have to pop this one out. There is a good amount of play in this U-joint assembly or U-bolt assembly. And now your secondary latch should be engaged in this tab here, so you can pull this. It means there's not enough tension on it, so we're gonna have to adjust this one just a little bit more. So it's pretty common for these two plates to come misaligned, so if you, as you just saw, you could pull pretty hard and this secondary latch isn't engaging fully with the latch in the back. So what we're going to do is break these loose and kind of just slide them just a little bit further so it engages a little bit better. Just kind of hold that there and you can go ahead and open it back up and start tightening it back down. And there you go. So after you have this assembly buttoned up, just go back and double check everything's nice and tight. And periodically you're going to want to check that all these gem nuts, lock nuts, and M6 bolts all are still tight and snug. You want to maintain this tightness because if these do get loose and this tire starts to shake, it's going to start wearing out all your contact points and you don't want that.